Hey there, it's Leslie at Leslie's Cookies and Treats, and I just want to say happy fall. Today I'm decorating another one of my city gnome cookies. This cutter is available as an STL file for 3D printers on my website. So if you're interested in decorating along, you can get that at www.l-treats.com. And I have decorated this cookie for just about every occasion, so you can check out all the different ways you can decorate it on my website or in my YouTube videos. Anyway, I used a 15-second royal icing and I outlined the top of his hat. And then I did a wet on wet effect, and I'm just going to immediately pipe in a green and an orange patch right on top of each other. And then I'm going to move on down here to the shoes, and I'll do the bottom of his shoes and let that dry. So as I outline and flood in each area with a 15-second royal icing, I am using my scribe to settle the icing down, make sure it gets all the way down to the cookie so I don't get any craters, and shape it however it needs to be shaped. And then I'm going to move on to his pants. I don't want to pipe anything that's directly touching another area because I want it to dry and leave some areas of separation. And my icing is a little bit thinner than a 15-second flood here, so I did not go all the way to the edge. Instead, I'll use my scribe to get my icing out to the edge so it doesn't overflow the cookie. And then I want to give him another patch, so I'm going to take my orange icing and pipe right on top of the blue icing and make another little square here, and then I'll use my scribe to settle that icing down just by gently poking up and down. And now my hat's been drying for at least 10 minutes, so I'm going to go back in and add the hat band with the blue royal icing. And then I'll use my scribe to get the icing all the way out to the edges and let it dry. And then I'm just going to outline the bottom of the hat here and give a little squiggle in the middle so that it doesn't crater, but also because I want that area to be really full later. And then I'm going to move down here to the beard because my pants have been drying for at least 15 minutes now, and I can go ahead and flood in his beard. And then, like I always do, I'll use my scribe to move the icing out to the points and to kind of shape his beard and settle the icing down. Now I can go ahead and outline the tops of his shoes and flood those in because that black icing has been drying for quite some time now. I don't want my icing to be touching other areas of wet icing because I don't want the two areas to blend together. I want to keep some separation between the areas. So I'm letting each area dry before I pipe the section that's right next to it. And then I'm going to use my scribe again here to make sure that the icing gets all the way down to the cookie so it doesn't crater, and to smooth it out and shape it. And now that the hat brim has had a chance to dry, I will go in and add in a big amount of icing over the top of the squiggle I put there earlier. And I just want this area to be really full and puffy, and I probably will even go ahead and overpipe it again later and add another layer. So I gave the shoes some time to crust over, and now I'm using stiff royal icing to make little bits of straw coming out of the bottom of his pants over the tops of his shoes. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Just touch down, drag a line, let go, touch down, drag a line, stop squeezing, let go until you have the amount of straw that you want. And then using my blue royal icing, I'm going to make some pant cuffs right over the top of that straw. And once again, using my scribe in an up and down motion to get the icing all the way down to the cookie so I don't get craters. Okay, the beard and the hat have had a chance to set up, so I'm going to go back in with my white icing and pipe in where his mustache and his nose and his hands will go. And I'm just going to lay some icing down here. There's parts of this that I will overpipe later. But just get down some icing and we'll let this dry completely. And now that my icing's dried completely, I'm going to actually give some texture to the beard and the mustache. So I'm just put a dab of icing on, and I'm using my dampened paintbrush to kind of paint it around in the direction of the hair of the mustache. And then I'll go ahead and put a squiggle on the beard, and we'll do the same thing. If you get any icing on the hat or on the pants where you don't want it to go, just wipe off your paintbrush, get it damp, dry off all the excess water, and then wipe away any icing where you don't want it to be. And you don't need to wait for this icing to dry because it's very thin. It will dry very quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and pipe on his nose. And again, using my scribe to make sure I get the icing all the way down to the cookie so I don't get a crater right smack in the middle of his nose as it dries. Now taking my stiff icing, I'm going to give him some more straw poking out of his hat And I'm wiping the tip of my bag off in between each little piece of straw that's coming down from underneath his hat, and I'm just touching down, squeezing, pulling a line, stop squeezing and let it go, and just kind of let the icing fall where it does. And because that yellow icing is stiff, I don't need to wait for it to dry before moving on to the hands. So I'm going to take my 15-second icing and pipe 2 C shapes for his hands right over the top of that mustache and the straw that we just put down. And I'll use my scribe to shape it and to get rid of any air bubbles. And as I told you before, I was going to pipe over his hat brim again. So I've let his nose crust over and his hands, and now I'm just going to go back in and flood in right over the top of that hat brim and give it another layer of icing here so it has some extra dimension and height. And using my scribe to settle the icing down. Now this little cutie is holding a banner of leaves, so I'm going to go ahead and pipe in a vine and some little tails coming out from the bottom of his hand. And then I just have some leaves that are sprinkles. I don't know where I got them, but I'm going to use those to give him a little swag of leaves here. And I just place them on with a little dot of royal icing. And moving back up to the hat, I'm using my stiff royal icing to give him a sunflower at the top here. So I'm going to squeeze, pipe a ball, stop squeezing, and drag it towards the center. And I'll do that all the way around, and then I'll add some brown dots for the center of my sunflower. So I'm going to put this guy aside to dry completely. And now that he's dry, I'm going to use my edible marker to add a few little stitches to the patches, and then this little cutie will be done and ready to celebrate fall. I absolutely adore making gnome cookies, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And as I mentioned, this cutter is available for 3D printers on my website. It's called the Sitting Gnome Cutter. And here's some of the other ways I've decorated this cookie. You can also catch the tutorials for these on my YouTube channel. I hope that you found this content helpful. If you did, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. It helps me a lot, and then I can keep making more content. Thanks.